In this session, we want to talk about joining computers to a domain, whether they be the client computers or whether they be a server. Once you have installed your server and set up the server, configure the DHCP in the server, and configure the DNS, then you are ready to join the computers to the network or to the domain. Of course, you have to have your infrastructure. You have to have your switch panel set up. You also have to have cabling where the cable, if you're using Ethernet, connects from the Ethernet port in the computer to the switch, and then the switch in turn is connected to the server. So you have to have all of that infrastructure in place. Once that is done, you want to be able to join your computers to the domain. And it's a very simple process. If you are the local administrator for the computer, if you can log on locally as the administrator, then you have the privilege of joining, or the user right, we call it in IT terms, of joining that computer or that server to the domain. Once these systems are joined to the domain, then you, the administrator, can control those computers with your group policies. You can share files, you can share folders. The computers can connect with each other, and they can also go out on the internet. We want to now turn our attention to actually going through the process of joining the computers to the domain. We are going to be joining this server 1, to the Contoso domain. The same process that we use for joining the server to the domain, that's the same process that we will use for joining client computers to the domain. You first have to log on to the client computer or the server as a local administrator for that client computer or the server. The server is simply a member server. It's not a domain controller. It has not been joined to the domain. So we're going to go here and we're going to click on Windows Explorer. And what we want to do is to get to system settings. We can get to system settings through control panel, or what we could do is to open Windows Explorer like I did just now, and then you want to right click on this PC and click on properties. Then you want to click on advanced system settings. And you want to get to the system properties box here. What we want from the system properties box is the computer name. So I'm going to click on computer name. Then I see that the full computer name is server 1. If I wanted to change that computer name, I can click on change. And I can change the computer name here to whatever name I wanted the computer to be. When I change the computer name, the computer is joined to the work group by default. So if I change the name, I will have to change the work group name here, but this computer is already in a work group, meaning that it is not joined to the domain. So since it's in a work group, we can go ahead and click on domain. Then we have to type the name of the domain, as simple as that. And we're going to type Contoso for the name of the domain. And we're going to click on OK. We're going to wait a while for the dialog box to pop up asking us to sign in with the initials for the administrator. We're going to type the username, which is administrator. And the password. And then we want to say OK. Click. It says, welcome to the Contoso domain. So we know that we have successfully joined the server to the Contoso domain. The very same procedure that we use to join the server is the same procedure that you're going to use to join your client computers to the domain. Once your infrastructure is in, meaning that you have your domain controller configured with DHCP, which is going to give IP addresses to your servers, and DNS, which is going to give the DNS address to your server, and you have your infrastructure in with your cables and your network switches, then the computer is going to join seamlessly to the domain. So we click OK, and the computer will restart. Click close and restart now, and you will see that the computer will restart. Once the computer has restarted, that computer will now be able to connect to the domain controller or to any other computer on that domain. Very simple for joining to computer to the domain. So we're going to log back on again now. And the computer is restarting. It's logged on. And what I want to do now is to go and check to see if this computer is indeed a part of the domain. I'm going to go back here to the Windows Explorer, the File Explorer icon. I'm going to right click on the PC, click on Properties, click on Advanced Systems, and then I want to click on the computer name and then click on Change. And even before I click on Change, I can see that my full computer name is server1.contoso.com. Before the change, it was just server1. So I know that the server has taken on the domain name. We're going to click on Change anyway, and we see here that the computer server1 is a member of the domain contoso.com. And that's how we go about joining the computer to the domain. We want to talk about joining a computer to a domain while that domain is offline, or while that computer has no access to the domain controller. And that's a two-step process. Why might we want to do that? Why would you want to join a computer to the domain when there is no domain available? Well, you might be in a situation where you're setting up a new office and there is no infrastructure as yet in place. In other words, the network is not ready. There's no network switch. There's no cabling. But you still want to go ahead and join the computer to the domain? Well, believe it or not, you can. So let's look and see how you will achieve that. First, you have step 1 here. For step 1, you have to be able to access a domain controller from another computer. So step 1, we have this computer, and this computer is able to access the domain controller. We're going to use a command line called djoin.exe. So at your command prompt, you're actually going to type the command, and this command is going to be able to collect what we call metadata from the domain controller. Let's look at the syntax. The syntax says djoin /provision, and then we have the parameter domain. So you actually have to type the domain name here. This is just a placeholder for the domain name. So you're going to take out the left here and right signs, and you're just going to put the domain name. And then you have the machine parameter, and you actually then have to type the name of the destination machine, which would be the machine that at another branch office maybe that cannot join the domain. What this is going to do is save a file. So you have the save file parameter here, and filename.txt would be the name that the file would be saved on. So you're actually creating a file with metadata from the domain controller, and whatever name you put here for file name, that's the name that metadata is going to be saved with. When you've done that now, you actually have to go to the second computer, this one at the new office here in step 2, where that computer is not joined to the domain. At the command prompt, you have to run this command, djoin request odj, the parameter load file, and then the name of the file that you had saved in step 1. And then you have to type out the Windows path, which is usually the Windows root file, the Windows root folder, for where the metadata or the offline image is stored. And what you are telling the computer to do here is, when the computer is turned on and the domain controller is available, to automatically load that file. And when it does that, then the computer will automatically join the domain. You don't have to do what we did before, go into a right click and go to systems and then type the domain name. That metadata that we run on this computer will automatically allow this computer in step 2 to join the domain once the domain becomes available. This is the end of our session on joining a domain while offline. I want to thank you for listening.